Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Soulful Living. I'm Dr. Jane Mountrose, and I'm your host today here with my special guest, Jeryl Peterson Heatherdale, a colleague, old friend. Well, I'll tell you all about it. So I'm excited to announce also today's strategy, which is Ignite Your Heart, which is chosen by Jeryl. Let me tell you first a little bit about Soulful Living. Soulful Living provides timely keys and solutions for open-minded people who want to create more joyful, meaningful, and prosperous lives. For 3 decades, my husband Philip and I have been published authors, trainers, coaches, and founding directors of IAHP, the International Association of Holistic Practitioners. IHP itself is part of Awakenings Institute, a nonprofit organization dedicated to creating a more loving world where the unique gifts that each individual brings are honored and nurtured. Each Sunday, we discuss a single spiritually focused strategy for living more soulfully. As mentioned, today's strategy is Ignite Your Heart. We hope you can join us often and start your week off right with fresh ideas you can use to live more soulfully. So what we're going to be talking about is practical tips here. So now I'm also pleased to tell you a little bit about Reverend Jeryl. Reverend Jeryl is a spiritual teacher, holistic life coach, Reiki master, teacher, angelic Reiki master teacher, and healing facilitator practicing a variety of alternative methods. With 35 years of study in metaphysics, she brings to her work a wide variety of teachings and personal experience in a gentle, compassionate, and loving manner. Jeryl's mission is to assist others in total healing on the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels for personal and planetary transformation and ascension, as well as to advocate for the healing of Mother Gaia. As a friend and admirer of Jeryl, I would also like to say that she is an extraordinarily gifted and loving human being. She is a minister with Awakenings Institute who is passionate about her purpose and making a difference in the world. So I'm delighted to welcome you, Jeryl. I'm happy to have you here, and I'd love to have you start with a bit more about yourself and why igniting the heart is especially important to you. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I have God bumps from head to toe right now, and you you fill my heart, Jane. You and I have known each other now for, gosh, about what, 7 years now, and you have been such a big part of my healing journey. I did several things before we met, but meeting you and Philip and going through the Holistic Life Coach course over that first year, and then I took it again. You've watched me really transform.
Yes.
I think I met you a year into, it was a year in, so we've known each other about six and a half years. It was a year into my recovery, the beginning of my recovery journey.
Right.
I started with alcohol and cigarettes, and then when I had met you, I quit smoking pot, and then you got to help me get through my biggest one, which I felt was my worst one, was the sugar addiction. And it was what you did with all of the different techniques that you teach in the course that really helped me hang on at that time, So I just want to say thank you, and I'm certainly blessed, and I'm so honored to be here with you tonight. But about me, oh my gosh, I'm so used to being on your side of the table, interviewing everyone. I kind of was like, oh my gosh, the tables have turned on me tonight. I have to come up with and talk about myself a little bit. As you said, my journey started now over 35 years ago. And, it really became a process of moving out of those very real third dimensional belief systems,
Right.
and core beliefs and cultural beliefs and all those things my parents told me, my family told me, everything that I was learning growing up as a child. And when I think I was like 27 or so, going on 28 when I woke up, if you will. And it was really amazing because prior to that, my motto was, "She who dies with the most toys wins."
Wow.
Broadcasting.
That's different.
I mean, I was making six figures a year. I was very successful in broadcasting, and it was all about the party. It was all about really, I lived life passionately, you know, and
Well, you still do.
I do, but in a whole different way.
Right.
I'm actually conscious now, which is really
Right.
nice.
That's
And
different.
I actually remember pretty much everything I do, which is really nice. But it was a different way of going about life. It was a different process. And let's face it, back in the 80s and the 90s, it was, you know, they talk about the me. Well, I was really into me. I was really into what I wanted to do, how, you know, about living my life. Now, I was a volunteer. I did a lot of things. So deep down inside, there was this Jeryl Ann that you know now. She was there. She just was so covered up by all the other stuff. And to your point tonight, igniting the heart, that's what it took. I woke up because my heart was ignited.
Well, that's where it really happens.
Yes. And but you know, if there's a few things that I grew up with, sayings, and the one saying I heard all the time was, "Don't think with your heart, think with your head." If my father said that to me once, he said it to me a million times. And he told each of us kids that you won't get anywhere by listening to your heart. You've got to think with your head. You know? And I mean, could it be any more opposite?
Right.
You know?
Well, and it's interesting that that's the transformation, is that we're getting out of our heads and into our hearts. I mean, that's the solution. But he hadn't discovered it yet, so.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen in this incarnation for him, but maybe the next go round.
Right.
And, so it really was a journey. You know, the journey began about moving into my heart, and it very rapidly became not at all about the material. It became completely about the spiritual. And of course, I realized at that time that I wanted to learn astrology. I must admit that it was so far over my head and so complicated, I couldn't do it. And the instructor that I had, she said, "You know, I teach another class, numerology." And I went, "Well, let's give it a shot." And amazingly, I really loved it. And I took to it like a duck to water. And I was doing numerology, and I found out that my life path was a 7, my soul urge was a 7, my expression was a 9, and my birthday was a 1, leadership, teaching. So 7s are, boy, they have to follow a spiritual path. If you don't follow a spiritual path, if you're a 7, your life just goes sideways. It really goes off the rails. 9 is humanitarianism, self-awareness, self-expression, really philanthropic. So it became very clear to me that I needed to really walk this spiritual path. And it wasn't hard, because I ended up having to open up a metaphysical bookstore and healing center, because my ex said, "You know, it'd be so much cheaper if we just opened up our own store." Well, you remember back then, there was like, if you would go into a bookstore, there might be 2 shelves and it said occult.
Right. And if you were interested, then it's like you're really.
Exactly. So there really wasn't, for me, I lived in a city of about 500,000 people, but still there wasn't really anything around. And I was buying books. I mean, I could not buy enough books. I could not, I couldn't get enough. I couldn't read enough. I couldn't study enough. And so I did ultimately end up having a bookstore and a healing center. But I digress. You know me, I do that a lot. But I get so excited because the whole journey with every single book, it was about going into the heart. It was about following your heart, following your intuition, not this.
Right.
But what we're finding out now is that when you can connect the two, there's nothing you can't do. And that is where my journey has led me. And in all of the teachings and you of course, you do the soul centering, and you have the soul centering processes, and
which is heart centered for people who don't know.
Which is heart centered. So just for those of you that are watching, it would be my belief, and I'm sure that Jane would agree with this because of what she's taught me, is that the soul resides in the heart. Okay, that's where our soul is. Is in the heart. And what they have found at the Heart Math Institute is that the heart is really the brain. The brain is the computer that fulfills the heart's wishes or the heart's desires. So when you connect the two, you're very, very powerful. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. And
right.
Do that very quickly in 3 minutes to really connect that. And it amps up everything you do exponentially.
Right. And I think for people who are wanting to connect more with the truth of who they are and their own guidance, which for myself and Philip, my husband, when we at a certain point decided, well, why is it that we're listening to these other spiritual teachers who say that they have access to this higher wisdom and guidance when, if they have it, why can't we? And it actually took us, and this was in the 1980s when, as Jeryl suggested, there wasn't much going on. And it took us probably 5 years before we found that truth, which is actually very simple. And it's right. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like it's right in plain sight, but you don't know it.
Yeah.
Because, and people, we were learning different intuitive techniques, and we were like you, we were studying everything we could and going to classes and we were learning different things, but they weren't real direct. It's very simple. The first thing is to connect with the love in your heart, because that connects you with your soul's truth. And then from there you connect with higher guidance and wisdom. And when that happened for us, I mean, I'll never forget. For me, I should say, for myself personally, because I can't say I had Philip's experience, but when it happened for me, my life changed dramatically almost immediately. And it's one of the most profound things that has ever happened to me. And I went from a place of feeling like I hardly wanted to get up in the morning because life was such drudgery to being so excited I would get up. Now I get up very early, actually, because I love the quiet, that quiet time. It's like my time. I would get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning so I could do soul centering.
Wow. Yeah.
And that transformed everything. I was able to get guidance. And another thing, for anyone who hasn't had that opportunity to connect with the truth in your heart, that also is the place where you learn to love yourself.
Yes.
And that's so important. And that when Jeryl, she mentions ascension as one of her interests, and it is for me too, that it starts there with loving yourself.
It really does. And you know, one of the greatest messages and most common messages that has come out of the COVID pandemic, you know, COVID really allowed us to get quiet. It forced us to get quiet and to isolate and to be with ourselves and to go into our hearts. Because quite honestly, you know, I think we all needed, it was kind of like a big timeout that we were getting. You know, I
Right.
think in the beginning we all felt like we were being punished in some ways. But for me, I found out that it was truly one of the greatest gifts that we've ever been given. And it gave us all time to go in and reflect and go into our hearts. And this message that the thing, the self-love, you know, there's so much upheaval in the world right now, and especially in this country, that it is a lot of, I really believe it's indicative of the lack of self-love that we have across the country right now.
Hmm.
We're
It's
not,
wounding. It's self-wounding that causes hatred. You know,
it is,
which is sad.
it
Yeah.
really is. You know, we are taught as children that if we brag about our accomplishments, if we love ourselves, then it's vanity, or it's being braggadocious, or it's being prideful or boastful. And that has limited us in so many ways, that is so important that we love ourselves, because only when we truly love ourselves can we love someone freely. It we have been taught to believe, and women in particular, and I love men and women both. I mean, I'm not talking about sexuality. I'm just talking about people, humanity. You know, but we are taught that if we find that right person, then we will be loved and we will feel that love. We are not taught to love ourselves. We're just not.
No, not in the well, and there is society is not at that level.
Right.
It's at a lower consciousness level from there, and so society as in general just doesn't understand that,
And I
because it isn't actually appreciating yourself in the same sense as someone. When you're talking about someone bragging like I'm this, well, that's usually coming from a place of
you know,
maybe not loving yourself. Actually, it's a place of doubting yourself. If you feel like you have to brag about yourself, it's not about bragging about yourself. And it's also not about trying to be better than, which is a good way, I think, to understand the distinction, is that it is recognizing that you're special and everybody's special. So
exactly.
there's no competition. It's just like we're all here to we're all individuated aspects of our creator.
And if for me, it's also about, to expand upon what you're saying, appreciating those things about ourselves that, so if I appreciate myself, these qualities about me that are loving and compassionate and kind and giving, and those things that I see in others that I really respect and admire, then, and I appreciate that about myself, then anyone, because that's the vibration I'm giving out, that's the energy, as opposed to focusing on, oh darn, I didn't do this right, I didn't do that right, and oh, I'm just not good enough. And I grew up in a very accomplished family, that the bar was really high. I mean, the bar was real high. And so there was an expectation of doing things well and to be the best and to do it perfectly or whatever. At least that's how I perceived it. So anything short of that, then I would kind of beat myself up. So as we really start to like ourselves and to appreciate ourselves, we pull in others who will feel the same way about us. So it's really, it's a kind of a lofty way of looking at it, in the sense that if I love myself, then I will pull those people, that vibration in of those people who will love me for my good qualities as well. And even those who go, yeah, okay, maybe that's not your most attractive quality, but I really do love you and you're a really good person and we all have our stuff.
Right.
So,
And well, it's not about perfection either.
right.
That's
right.
kind of a lower level of comparison too. Like we have to be perfect to be worthy of love or to be of value. It's not about that. In fact, you can just throw that whole thing out and enjoy yourself.
Exactly. Isn't that really refreshing when you do that and you go, you know what? It's okay. It's okay that I'm not perfect, because there is no such thing. I'm sorry, if we picked here to come to, it's just not going to be. But we have, but those are core beliefs that we're taught.
Right. Right.
Worthiness and self-love and self-value, that I think now we're, and one of the things that the heart brain coherence that we're going to, teach in a little bit is all about, is finding that balance, connecting to that, so that you feel more centered, that you feel you appreciate the power that you are,
right,
love that you are,
right,
because you have to kind of be in a self-loving, compassionate, gratitude-based emotion to pull it off.
Right. I want to take a quick moment off to welcome Sharon Williamson, who said hi to us, and
hi, Sharon.
We love you too. She said, "I love you guys."
I see that. We also have I'm so happy. One of my childhood friends is here. Susie Francis is with us, and Peggy Boyette, who has been here to the river. She's been to this river behind me many times. And Terry Angel's sister, Billy Hawkins, popped in. I don't know if she's still here or not. And Chetta Ward is also with us. So,
well, welcome. Wow. Welcome, everybody.
Hi, everybody. It's really nice to see everybody. It's so nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it is, when you're talking about transformation, also, to me, you could call it a dimensional shift or a reality shift. We are talking about two different realities. And the lower version of reality is polarized, which is why there is so much kind of, there's love and hate and black and white and good and bad. And what we're talking about is going up to that higher place where there's unity.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you could make the distinction in terms of love, you could call it divine love as opposed to conditional love.
Yeah.
Because there is at the lower level, there is love and hate. Mm-hmm. And I often think, one time I heard on the news, and this was a while back, although there are stories like this still, a woman who was a Christian, and they were interviewing her. She was in Israel or in Jerusalem, I think, and celebrating Christianity there. And they were asking her about what she was doing, and she said, "Well, my minister told me to love the Jews, and ever since then I have loved them with all my heart." And I mean, that's beautiful.
Uh-huh.
But why is it she didn't love them with all her heart before someone told her to love them? It's kind of like, well, if my minister told me to hate the Jews, I would probably hate the Jews too. It's still in that polarized place. It's love that is actually conditional on someone telling you that someone else is worthy of love, rather than being in a place of unity where we're all worthy of love.
Well, and that's exactly the truth about the higher consciousness and the lower consciousness, and that's what we're seeing in our country right now. We're seeing that division of, if I'm right, then that means you have to be wrong. We have been taught to believe that if we have differing opinions, somebody's got to be wrong. We can't all be right. And the truth is, we're all right. You know, and not only are we correct right, but we're all right. We're really truly okay. We're all right as well. And but that's the division. And don't you think or at least I think right now what we're seeing with this intense separation, this intense hatred, is sometimes the pendulum has to swing to the extreme before it can find its balance again. And I think that's what we're finding. And it's very painful to watch. It literally hurts my heart to watch.
It does. Right. And it is, well, there are different levels of consciousness. And at a certain level of consciousness, if we're a person with a certain set of beliefs and we think our belief is the right one, which means there are other wrong ones, that polarization exists where you have to have an enemy to feel good about your position. And it is, and then we wake up and realize, well, that's not right.
Exactly.
You know, we don't have to do that anymore. And that, I think that being shown, I think, such extremes now of meanness and hatred, it's not who we are.
It's not.
That the opportunity there is to say, well, this is not, regardless of what someone is telling me, like that we're right and these other people are wrong, I don't buy it anymore. I believe that we're all children of God and that we all are worthy of love. So it's an opportunity for growth.
Yeah. You know, when we become heart-centered, there isn't any comparison, there isn't any judgment.
No, there's no need for it.
And so we see that all paths lead to creator, source, God, whatever anybody wants to call it. All paths get there. Now, are some of them a little more bumpy than others? Yeah. Are some of them kinder than others? Are some of, they're all different, but it all comes from the same place and it all goes back to the same place. And that's what we're talking about in becoming heart-centered, is to be able to move through this third dimensional reality in a higher conscious vibration, so that no matter what we encounter, you can watch it, you can be compassionate about it. It can literally bring tears to your eyes, the pain of it, but not add to the negative vibration of it, and to stay in your own heart center and send out love or send out whatever you can to raise it up, because adding more of the negative to it is not going to change it. It's just going to make it worse. It's just going to, when you add fuel to a fire, it just makes the fire bigger.
Right.
Instead, you put water on the fire to put it out. And
right.
The water is the love. So, for those of you that are just joining us, what we're talking about is being heart-centered, igniting the heart, and walking through this world in a heart-centered way. Because that's where all healing comes from.
Right.
That's where life begins. That's where the healing comes from, and that's where it transitions from. Because life never ends. The body may, but the soul doesn't.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. And if you ask yourself, and this is something I did, wasn't that long ago. I don't know why it didn't occur to me before then, but I asked myself some years ago, well, what is love? How would I define love? And I'm sure there's a dictionary definition, but what is it to me? What it is, and I think what it is, I would say more objectively, is it's the lack of separation. And it is that there is no separation. We're all one.
Right, we are.
And it is when you love someone or something, you want to hug it, you want to hold it, you want to be with it. There is no resistance to it. That's right. Love.
That is love. And want to say hi to Robin Waters Dykes. She's with us. She just joined us, and she's saying,
thank you for joining us. Yeah, I see Peggy there.
Yeah, she's come to the river quite a bit of times. She's friends with the family. And
wonderful.
Much time here at this river that you see behind me. This is my front yard, everybody, right here.
In Florida.
I am very, very blessed. I am extremely blessed. And when I do this technique, I'm going to teach everybody this is what gratitude is. One of the things that you think of, and this is what I think of, is this river and the healing that I get from the river. But interestingly enough, we're talking about the word love and the definition of love. In this technique I'm going to teach, it's called heart-brain coherence. They specifically avoid the word love. They talk about gratitude, they talk about compassion, they talk about caring, because everyone has a different concept of the word love.
Right.
And I can say love, and one person might even look at love and cringe, because to them, what has been presented as love in their lives has been very painful.
Right. Conditional. Right.
Very conditional, yes. So the Heart Brain Institute does not use love as a foundation for this technique. And I got, it really made me think about it a lot. What does love mean to me?
Mm-hmm. Right. And it is, like I said, people talk about love at a polarized level, and it's a whole different thing than we're talking about that's why I'd say you might want to distinguish it as divine love, because it is up up there. It's not down here, in the dumps, kind of. So would you like to go ahead and share the technique with us?
I'd love to. It's and I just want to give a little bit of background about it. So if people want to check out the Heart Math Institute, it's out in Boulder Creek, California. It's Boulder Creek. I want to say it's Boulder.
Colorado?
No, California. They're out in California.
I'm not familiar with Boulder Creek in California, but
Boulder something, Colorado. I mean,
California. It's in California.
I thought it was in Colorado, and then I looked, and it was like, no, they're in California. In fact, Kathleen, one of your students, Kathleen Freer, she grew up right around the corner from there and never knew what it was, and would go by it all the time.
Wow.
It's somewhere where she is from. So they are in California, and the Institute itself, they're quite amazing. There are several books. It's called Heart Math, and they scientifically are measuring the heart and what the heart does. Up until then, what was starting to happen is that when all these doctors when they were first doing heart transplants, they would gather at these like conventions, and these stories were starting to come out. So, for example, when someone had a heart transplant, after this transplant, all of a sudden, they would crave certain foods that they'd never craved before. They would have, one person spoke an entirely different language than they had ever spoken before. So it led them to look at the fact that the heart was more than just an organ in the body that pumped blood and kept the body alive. And this led to the Heart Math Institute and all of these scientific studies. With this technique, it's called heart-brain coherence, or Greg Braden calls it heart-brain harmony. And you can go online, you can go on YouTube and look it up. You can go into Greg Braden's works and teachings. That's how I learned about it. And I am what they call an ad heart facilitator. And I had to take a test and study all about this process. The process is very, very simple. And here's what it does. First of all, it releases over 1,300 chemicals in the body when you do this. Those chemicals are like super, super positive chemicals in the body, like endorphins and serotonin and all of these things. It literally, and I always think of the Joe Pesci movie, The Youths, why it de-ages you. How do you say it? It reverses the aging process. That's it. That's how I want to say it. It literally reverses the aging process. It heals the body from the inside out. It's amazing. These chemicals are so beneficial to you. It changes, it increases your ability for memory. One of the techniques that they have you do this ad heart breathing. We're going to do heart brain coherence breathing. And then you do it in pairs. And one person tells a story for 2 minutes. And that other person listens. It's intentional listening. And then the other person has to repeat it back to them. And 9 times out of 10, that other person can repeat it back almost verbatim. I did this technique 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. I can still, to this day, remember the story, the 2-minute story that was told to me.
Wow.
Almost verbatim. So it's one of those techniques that if you have, Jane, this would be, I do it, I've been teaching the tapping class. So I do it before the tapping class when we remember to do it. We're not all caught up in what we're saying. We're so excited about what we're done with tapping. So if you have a meeting, if you have a very important meeting or something that you really want to be alert and really focused on, this is a great thing to do. It's great to start your day this way. It's great to end your day this way. It's great to do throughout the day. It takes 3 minutes to go into heart-brain coherence. Okay, it's very, very simple. And so you can use this technique to bring yourself into alignment, your heart and your brain. And it's like, it brings out a superpower in you that you wouldn't normally have. So we're going to talk about the 3 steps. Very simple. The first step is focus on the heart. I'm going to just put my camera down just a little. So you can take 2 fingers, you can take all of them. You can put your hand here on your heart chakra, right here, right above your sternum, right around your sternum. Okay. So this is the reason you do that is so that you can really focus on the heart in that area. Okay. The second thing that you're going to do is think a compassionate thought, a thought of gratitude, caring, a memory, like for those who have had children, maybe when, that moment when they're first holding their child, that amazing emotional experience. I think of this river behind me. I think of where I live, the healing. I think of the absolute abundance of nature and healing and beauty that I get to experience every single day. The gratitude for my life, the gratitude for everything around me. I am probably one of the most grateful people on the planet for everything that I have. And that's what I have right there. A thought of caring for, someone that's important in your life, someone that you really, truly care about, humanity, Mother Earth, whatever it is. So it's a thought of compassion, a thought of gratitude, a thought of caring, whatever it is, something that really puts you in that that really good space, that really good feeling, okay? And the third component of this is your breathing, breath work. So as you're thinking, you're going to breathe in through your heart, and it's going to go up to the brain. You're going to hold it, and you're going to exhale out the heart and hold it. So the counting is important. You're going to inhale to the count of 5 through the heart to the brain, hold to the count of 3 to 5, exhale to the count of 5 out through the heart, hold it again to the count of 3 to 5, and you're just going to repeat that. Inhale to 5, hold, exhale to 5, hold, and it's in through the heart, up and out through the heart. All the while, holding your focus in your heart and keeping that feeling of gratitude and compassion. And in that 3 minutes, you're releasing all those yummy chemicals. It's free, and you're youthing yourself. People say to me, oh my gosh, you look like you're not, Zoom, by the way, does take 10 years off of us. I have to say that. It just makes us look better. But besides the fact, I was at a party, and I do this regularly, and I was at a party for my parents' 70th wedding anniversary, and I had this person I've known for 18 years. This was one of the people that really thought I was going to be dead, 7.5 years ago, almost 8 years ago, because of my habits and my drinking and drugging and everything. And he called me over, and he said, I know you've lost weight, but he said, something's different. He said,
it's more than that.
yeah. He said, you glow. You're different. You're so different. What are you doing? He said, you're so beautiful. You look so beautiful. And it wasn't about my hair or anything else. It was like he saw this light coming out of me. Well, part of that is this ad heart, the heart brain coherence. It's releasing those chemicals in my body, releasing that, and having that, it regenerates you. So I'm going to set a timer for this, and we can do this for 3 minutes. Are we up for that?
Sure.
Yay, okay, cool beans. Okay, let me get my timer out, and we will do that. Clock. Timer. 3 minutes. And okay. Are we ready? Everybody put
Ready.
your hand on your heart. And whatever it is that you want to think of, just put yourself in a place of gratitude, compassion, caring. Okay? And inhale to the count of 5 through the heart. Hold. Exhale down through the heart. Hold. Inhale through the heart. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Now just continue that breathing. When you're ready, open your eyes. How do you feel?
Good. I feel great.
I love doing that. And what's interesting is, I don't know if I have mine here. No, I don't have it out here. So if you go to Heart Math Institute, you can become an ad heart facilitator. Oh, hi, Julie Kiss. So when they do this every day, a couple of times a day, and they, with the intention of healing, all over the world. And if you know, I'm sure you're aware of those, the different times that they've done those group meditations all across the planet, and how crime went down, violence went down, all
Right.
impacted it. They have an entire group that gets together several times a day, and there's like thousands of people that do this. You can, if you decide you want to be an ad heart facilitator and to share this with other people, you take, I can't remember how much it costs, but you receive, it's a monitor that you clip to your earlobe, and you clip on the other part of it to your clothing. And
I have one of those.
Oh, do you? Okay,
Yep.
so you have the inner balance. I don't know. I don't think you can see that. Okay.
It's a program, right?
It's a program, and what it does is it monitors your coherence level, and they're really nice to have. I've done it so long now, I rarely use that program anymore. I just do it. But especially in the very beginning, it helps you to understand if you're in coherence or not, and how long you're staying in coherence, what knocks you out of coherence. Because you can be doing that breathing and that, and all of a sudden, how that monkey mind gets going, and the argument you had with someone earlier, or the dog barks and you're going, oh my gosh, would you not do that? You're taking me out of my Zen place, And so you can have a tendency to kind of get pulled out. And it shows you what even the most simple thought that can pull you out of the coherence. So it's kind of a neat thing to have. And I've had mine, like I said, for over a couple of years now.
Yeah.
So it's just such a great, quick technique to add to your daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it while you meditate, even, that.
Well, it is a meditation.
It really is. But like for those people who do, a daily meditation routine, they can start it out, because it is a box breath, routine, and it's a, so yeah, it could be incorporated into any number of things. And I had learned this ascension meditation, gosh, over 3 decades ago. And one of the phrases that is a mantra that you say in it is Om Compassion. And so what I did with the app is I would breathe into Om, hold it, and then exhale on compassion. And I would repeat that mantra in my head. It kept me in coherence the whole time. The other thing that I did with it, I like to do the Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I do that every day, at least, even if it's just to myself. So I would breathe into, I'm sorry, hold, please forgive me, hold, thank you, hold, I love you, hold. I'm a multitasker. I love to combine techniques. I really do. I always have. And so I found that doing both, I could do either one of those and do the heart-brain coherence and get all the benefits from both techniques. So that's always how I do it. Now, and I go out and sit by the river, and I start my morning. I have my coffee in the morning, and I do the heart-brain coherence sitting by the river, and Om compassion. So that's just an additional tip if somebody needs to have something to focus on, that you could use any mantra.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
That kind of keeps you focused in that, and just stay focused on your breathing and in and out the heart. So
thank you, Jeryl. That was beautiful. I'm very relaxed.
It's got me ready to go shrimping now. I'm ready to be one with the river in my net. Yes.
Right.
I love it.
So, any final thoughts on it before we close?
I guess I would just, I encourage everyone to move into their heart as much as possible. There's so many ways to do that. This is just one way, but it's so simple, and yet it's kind of like that pebble in the pond, the ripple effect of the energy that we just manufactured, created, however you want to say it, is like it's going out across the universe. So, the more that we do that, the more everyone can connect to their heart. Hi, John.
Oh, I say John, yep. With lots of hearts. Welcome.
Yeah. So it is about staying in our hearts. It's really about learning to live from our hearts as much as possible. We're going to digress. We're going to, sometimes, as you and Philip like to call it, get down in the mud. Every now and then I need a good mud bath to kind of make it. But, to rise up and to get back into the heart space, and to live just more fully from the heart.
Right. Yeah. It's much easier.
Oh my gosh, isn't it though?
Yeah, and it's actually healthy. I don't know if you mentioned that it actually increases longevity. All of these, there are just so many plain physical benefits. Not to mention, also I think they kind of, in terms of reaching the spiritual level, they kind of draw a little bit of a line there. They do talk about how it is a doorway to intuition, but it also is, I think, for us, from there you can just ask questions from that heart space and the truth, and that's where your guidance comes in, and connecting with that soulful part of yourself.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when Greg Braden teaches this, this is good. He goes into that very thing, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I would have forgotten it. You do the heart-brain coherence like we just taught. And then if you have a question, you say, my heart, what is the answer to this question? And then keep doing the coherence, and you will get an answer. You will definitely get an answer. So
right.
my heart, ask the question, and then just keep doing the coherence, and an answer will come. So thank you for bringing that up, Jane.
Yeah, and I like to write down questions. I just write the question out, and then I write down the response, because that actually stops that rational mind that wants to squawk. It stops it from interjecting and saying, no, that must not be true. I don't believe that. That's too simple.
I know. Yeah, usually the truth is pretty simple.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jeryl. And I'd also like to provide an opportunity for viewers to know how they can connect more with you.
Oh, well, actually, the best way to get me is on Facebook, Messenger, or friend me, Jeryl Ann Peterson Heatherdale. I know it's a mouthful, but it is what it is. And
well, if you look up Jeryl Ann, there aren't that many Jeryl Anns.
That is the beauty of my name. I didn't because nobody could pronounce it, nobody could spell it. It was just a nightmare. And so I went to Jerry when I became 13. And it wasn't until about a decade ago I went back to Jeryl Ann. But yes, it's one of the
unique. So
unique, just like me. Very few 6'1" Jeryl Anns running around out there. So I stand out in the crowd, literally and figuratively, for sure.
And you have a weekly show still, don't you?
I do Silent Mystics on Monday at 3:33 p.m. Eastern Time with Diana Beiersdorfer. And we do, like I said, we do that every Monday. In fact, tomorrow she will be channeling Metatron, and we'll be pulling cards. Both of us are going to be pulling some oracle cards. So
sounds like fun.
That will be a lot of fun. And so I hope people will join us on that. And then I'm teaching EFT tapping with the Beiersdorfer Institute, and do a lot of private counseling and sessions and just about everything. You name it. If I don't do it, you don't need it.
Okay, thanks a lot. And thank you so much for being here, Jeryl Ann. It's been, delightful, obviously. I just enjoy you so much.
I love it.
And for viewers, Julie Kiss said thank you, and I say thank you to everyone who joined us, and for the difference that you're making in the world too. Yes. So I want to also say, remember, with the keys and strategies we share on this show, the ultimate goal is to put them obviously to use so you can create a more joyful, soulful, and fulfilling life. We titled the show with something that you can use as an affirmation. So you could just say, remember to ignite your heart, or just say, ignite my heart, just to remind yourself to ignite your heart. And if you enjoyed this show as much as we did, we hope you'll join us next week and invite some of your friends too. It's more fun if you want to make soulful changes to make them together. And as you add more of these soulful strategies to your daily routine, your life can change in miraculous ways. So remember, the focus this week is ignite your heart. And if you want to know more, you can find out about the courses for Awakenings Institute, our books, and other offerings on our extensive website at gettingthrough.org/holistic. That's gettingthrough.org/holistic. You can learn specifically about Awakenings Institute at gettingthrough.org/awakenings. We also want you to know that we and our guests value your support. You know how to reach Jeryl Ann, and for Awakenings Institute, we want you to know that your tuition for courses and other purchases support our nonprofit mission for helping to create a more loving world. And you can share the message of love with those around you, and together we can change the world. So I'm wishing everyone a wonderful week, and Jeryl Ann, again, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so grateful, and thank you everybody for joining us. It was such a pleasure.
It was delightful.